Hello my Mercurial mercenaries. This is just going to be a little talk about Roger Waters' latest album called Is This the Life We Really Want? And as par for the course with my album reviews, this isn't an album review, this is just a first impression and a chat. So let's not get upset here, this is just a chat. So first of all, what's my relationship with Roger Waters? Not sexually. I am a Pink Floyd fan, but I'm not a fan to the extent where I own everything that they ever did. I'm a very specific kind of fan. I think Dark Side of the Moon is fantastic. I think Wish You Were Here is fantastic. I think that era of Pink Floyd, that mid-70s era of Pink Floyd, I don't think they can really be beaten for making albums. And you know how I feel about albums, but for making an album. And then you go on through the decade to The Wall. And The Wall as an album I don't get on with as much as I do with Wish You Were Here, for example. But I do recognise moments of genius on The Wall. Another brick in the wall, comfortably numb. It's the kind of cliche things that anyone's going to say about The Wall. But I do recognise it. And I do recognise that Roger Waters was something special, and I recognise that in hindsight, when you listen to that era of Pink Floyd, and this, I'm not sure how much I need to think about this a little bit deeper, but Roger Waters kind of was Pink Floyd. And when they went into that room and the record guy said to them, "Hey, so which one of you's Pink? Which one of you's Pink? So, which one of you's Pink?" That wasn't American. I can't do it. Trying to do an American accent. "So, which one of you's Pink?" That still wasn't an American accent. Trying to do an American accent. So guys, it's not American. "So, which one of you's Pink?" I can't do an American accent. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But perhaps Roger back then was Pink. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. So Roger Waters leaves Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd carry on. We get that split. And because of that split, we do get that glorious moment 10 years or so ago when Pink Floyd did reunite for the Live 8 concert. And that, you know, I say I'm not a massive Pink Floyd fan, but that did bring a little bit of a tear to my eye. And there was that moment at the end where Roger Waters was trying to get everyone to have a bow, have a hold of hands. And, you know, he was urging Dave Gilmour, come over and just join in. And, you know, that was probably the last we'll see of Pink Floyd. Roger Waters used to put demos of whole albums together. And then he'd present the ideas to the band. And he'd say, which one do you want to work on? And apparently, if my memory serves me right, no research, he presented Pink Floyd with two ideas, The Wall and the pros and cons of hitchhiking. And the band chose The Wall, probably rightly so, but I am the guy who likes the pros and cons of hitchhiking. Considered to be, I see when I read about it, considered to be a pretty lacklustre album. And I think it's got one of those performances on it by Eric Clapton where Eric Clapton can't even remember playing it. But I like it. And I think Roger Waters overall has one of those voices that you could say that perhaps he can't really sing. Perhaps Roger Waters can't sing, but I quite like his voice in the same way that I like Bob Dylan's voice. And any viewers of this channel will know that, any long-term viewers of this channel will know that I place the ability to recognise a singer above their ability to sing. If you can hear someone for 5 seconds and know who it is, that means something. That means more than a million X Factor Pop Idol wannabes. To me. Would I like to be able to sing like an X Factor wannabe? Maybe. Maybe. Take it all with a pinch of salt. But Roger Waters has got a distinctive voice. Now this new album, apparently he hasn't really done an album for 25 years. He did some opera thing that I don't really know about. But his last album was 25 odd years ago, Amused to Death. Haven't really heard it. Like I say, take everything I'm saying as just a casual conversation because I'm not a massive Roger Waters fan. I just like him. And I like Pink Floyd. So this latest album is called Is This the Life We Really Want? And before I listened to it, I did check out, I don't usually do this, but I did check out a few reviews just to see what the general vibe is about this album. And they were kind of middling to good. Sort of meh to That's where this album stands. Now, I've put it on, I've listened to it through about 6 times now. And I was prepared with the title, Is This the Life We Really Want? The album cover, the reviews that I read, little bits and pieces of. I was prepared to think that this album was just, meh. However, I was pleasantly surprised. Now, one of the problems with this album, I thought would be, and maybe the problem is, there's a certain selection of rock stars who are a bit preachy. And they preach from a position of being loaded multi-millionaires, but preaching about how society should be and how the poor should be treated. You've got your Bonos and you've got your Phil Collins and Sting. And Roger Waters is there. You watch Roger Waters in an interview and he's bloody preaching. He's got a squillion quid in the bank, but he's bloody preaching. And this album is another one of Roger Waters' preachy albums. And he's got this recurring theme, hasn't he? That's something that he wants to get across. And it's always been there in all of Pink Floyd's music. And it's been there in all the bits I've heard of his solo stuff. And it's been there in his interviews. He's just got this specific viewpoint of, I've got itchy nose, that's what it is. A specific viewpoint of society and how he'd like to see it. And he's got a point of view regarding the media, and his albums tend to focus on elements of mass media, and this guy's rich, and so it's a bit like the phrase, it's rich coming from him, preaching at me, bloody Bono, bloody Roger Waters again, preaching at me. So given that, I went into this album with a little trepidation. This album was produced by Radiohead's producer. And I thought that could be interesting in itself. Is this going to be some kind of old bloke trying to sound young or trying to sound cutting edge? How's this going to go? In actual fact, this album sounds like Pink Floyd and Roger Waters' solo albums. No surprise, eh? I've been mentioning a few of the negatives to do with Roger Waters' character, but let's just put the positive spin on this. I think Roger Waters is great in interviews, a great watch. I enjoy the historic feud with Dave Gilmour. And it's one of those things where I think a lot of Pink Floyd fans will side one way or the other. I find it hard to do that. I think when Roger Waters talks, I think there's enough there to see the good in him and to agree with everything he's saying. However, when you hear Dave Gilmour talk, you get the feeling that Roger Waters kind of took over Pink Floyd and was Pink Floyd and didn't let some of the other guys perhaps have enough of a say. Maybe it's just that Roger Waters has mellowed over the years. I think that's what it is. I think even look at photographs of Roger Waters in the 70s, he seemed like an angry man. And when you see him in interviews now, he's still opinionated. But is he the same angry man? I don't know. But his voice, can he sing? I don't know. But I really enjoy his voice on this album. He's got that old, lived-in quality, that kind of Johnny Cash towards the end quality, that Bowie. He's got that distinctive voice, and he is saying something. Whether you agree with what he's saying from his lofty height as a millionaire or whatever is another matter, but he is saying something, and he's saying it with a voice that sounds good. I like it. The overall sound of the album is so Pink Floyd. There are elements here that sound just like Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here. just like it. There are the same keyboard sounds being used. There are the same drum patterns being used. There's the same melody in places. This is definitely harking back. Now, that might be to do with Roger Waters. That might be to do with Nigel Godrich, the producer. But someone there is definitely thinking about Pink Floyd. And I even hear elements of pros and cons of hitchhiking in there. This is Roger Waters. This is an album that's not trying to veer away from Pink Floyd. It's embracing Pink Floyd. Again, long-time viewers of this channel will know that I adore nostalgia. For some people, it's best to keep moving on, never look back. That kind of Woody Allen, Bob Dylan thing where just move on, don't dwell on your past, move on. I don't mind, I like nostalgia. It shouldn't always be about moving on, it should be looking back and reassessing. And this is an album that looks back and reassesses, and it throws all the same shit in your face. And he's got clips of the media and bits and pieces. It references Donald Trump. There can't be any surprise that this album references Donald Trump. This is Roger Waters. This album, he's been recording this album for apparently 7 years. I was worried about this album for all the reasons I spoke about earlier, but I was also worried that 7 years might mean that this album might not have focus. I've worked on albums for that long before, and there is an element of lack of focus to them. And then I've worked on albums like The Only Way Out Is Through, which was over a period of about 5 years, I think, where there was nothing but focus. So which way was this album going to go? Well, Is This the Life You Really Want? I think is pretty focused. If you were told it was recorded in the space of a couple of months, you'd believe it. So, a round of applause to Roger Waters there. There are some catchy songs here. And you've got the power of his distinctive voice. You've got the nostalgia of the old school instruments. You've got the production values, which are good. They're good. In fact, in places, in the middle of the album, whatever Nigel Godrich is doing, it reminds me of Bob Ezrin, the work he did with Alice Cooper in the mid-70s. It's good stuff. There's bits and pieces on songs that I find interesting, just personally. There's a song towards the beginning of the album where Roger Waters is using the F word a lot. No fucking this and no fucking that and no fucking Sex Pistol style. But it's the pronunciation of the word fuck that I love. Because in my youth, and this might be an English thing, in my youth, people didn't really say fuck, they said fuck. Fuck off. It wasn't fuck off. Now it's fuck. It's very, fuck. But back then it was fuck. And the way that Roger Waters says, no fucking this and no fucking that, no fucking that and no fucking that. I should have written the words down so I could, never mind. But no fucking this and no fucking that, fucking. Fuck, 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 fuck. I like that. Nostalgia again. I don't know quite why he's doing it, because later in the album he says fuck perfectly normally. But he says fuck like us as kids used to say fuck. He says fuck, fuck, and fuck. This album's a real diversion. There are moments here that sound like Ian Dury and the Blockheads. Moments that sound a little bit like latter-day Bowie. And then there's that big chunk of it that just sounds like Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here. And why not? He'll probably get criticised for it. I didn't read the reviews that slated this album, but I'm sure they would have just said that he's resting on his laurels and harking back to his past and why can't you move on from Pink Floyd? Everyone else has. No, I disagree. I think if you see good reviews of this album, believe those ones more. Because to kind of sum up my feelings about Is This the Life We Really Want? I think it's a decent album. And I was pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised with the catchiness of it. And overall, I have to give it a thumbs up. I have to give it a thumbs up. I was impressed. So, to end this little chat, if you haven't already, go and listen to Is This the Life We Really Want by Roger Waters. And why not let me know what you think below? Let me know what you think below. It's okay to disagree with me, but I think it's all right. I think it's pretty good. So let me know what you think below. And thank you, my Mercurial mercenaries. Over and out.